Hello there all! It's certainly been a while since my last proper review. Procrastination is a bitch, but I finally awakened from my long slumber to torture myself for your entertainment. And I can't imagine the kind of reaction some people might have to me reviewing this, and I need your rage to survive. Seriously, Man of Steel and Snyder's other DCEU works have a strange, almost cult-like following, consistently propping up these horrendous piles of shit as some of the best the superhero genre has to offer. Now, we can get into why BVS and Snyder Cut are complete failures another time, because while I love the feeling of my soul slowly dying, even I have to draw a line. So today, we'll cover Snyder's first failure, and easily one of the worst superhero movies, and movies in general, I've ever seen. So let's not delay any longer and dive right into the tism-filled corpse known as Man of Steel. So our movie begins with lots of screaming and crying. An appropriate response. Jesus, even a shot establishing Krypton's beauty looks so dull and lifeless. But that's the Snyder quality we've all come to tolerate. Kurt Russell informs the Council of Oldman that the Krypton is going to die due to them harvesting the core too much for energy.
What would you have us do, Al?
Look to the stars, like our ancestors did.
Keep this little bit of information in the back of your mind because, oh boy, am I not done with it yet. General Zod comes in and kills the Oldmen for basically letting their planet die. Kurt Russell is naturally appalled by this. Zod tries to take him away, but he escapes to the Genesis chamber to grab the Codex. How can someone fight off trained soldiers while being a scientist with no mention of training, but fuck it. Said Codex is in the shape of a hominin skull. Why is it in the shape of a hominin skull? This isn't even a nitpick, mind you, but it still bothers me for some reason. What is an issue is how the fuck did Kurt survive being so close to this explosion? Actually, why did they fire on him if they knew he had the Codex?
By the authority of General Zod, surrender the Codex.
Kurt Russell makes it back to his house with the hominin skull and, well, this isn't important right now, but...
Young star. His cells will drink its radiation.
Not Brainiac tells Kurt Russell that Zod is on his way, so he decides to put the hominin skull in Clark. Zod arrives at Kurt's house, lab, fortress, observatory, on a mountaintop? I'm letting my autism get to me. Anyways, Zod displays some great acting.
Heresy! Destroy it!
Sounds like Zack put peanut butter on the top of Michael Shannon's mouth and told him to autistically read. Also, why does Kurt have battle armor? He's a scientist, right? Whatever. The ship takes off and Zod kills Kurt Russell with a hidden blade he could have used at any time in their fight. That somehow Kurt was winning, despite Zod literally being bred for combat, but logic is the big gay. Zod is captured and overacts to the Council and Lara.
I will find him!
But what's even fun here are the penis ships. Zach, did you or no one else see the fact that these are flying cocks? Oh, if only the hilarious art design was the thing that this movie was remembered for. I would like to point out that there was enough time to do this whole damn trial, but none of them tried to get as many people off of Krypton as possible. Clark's ship lands on Earth, and we fast forward to Clark as an adult working on a fishing boat. Well, that opening was kinda tismy. However, the sequence with Clark going to help the oil rig workers when he hears the rig is going to explode is very promising. It's a very Clark Kent thing to do. At the mere mention of people in trouble, he instantly goes to help him, even if it costs him his job. A job he just got, indicated by the fact the fisherman calling him a greenhorn. Be a real shame if this was contradicted later on. Clark saves the workers before the rig explodes, sending him into a flashback. A young Clark is in class when his powers start to act up in a, dare I say, good scene. Martha having to calm Clark down and giving a kind of explanation of how he got a grasp of his powers.
Focus on my voice. Pretend it's an island.
It's all around a good scene, as is the next flashback when Clark saves a bunch of his classmates from dying when their bus goes off the side of the bridge, showing that even at a young age, Clark had a very solid moral center. Unfortunately, we've reached the point where the cracks start to show. The fat Ginger's mom shows up at the Kent house, and instead of thanking Clark for literally saving her son's life, she says this insane shit.
I'm sure what he thought he saw
was an act of God, Jonathan. This was providence.
A normal parent would chalk this up to the incredibly traumatic experience her son just went through, but for some reason she believes her son and the other children, who suffered an immensely traumatic experience, that Clark was able to push the bus out of the water. And her basis is that Clark does weird things.
And this isn't the first time Clark's done something like this.
That's some mighty fine stretching, lady. But maybe she's the neighborhood raving lunatic who thinks the Jesuits are hiding the fact the Earth is flat. Because they are! John goes to Clark and tells him that he needs to keep his powers a secret. Clark then asks the reasonable question of,
what was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
And oh boy does John give an answer.
Maybe.
Forgetting that this is supposed to be Jonathan Kent, what decent father would even think about saying this? Your son just saved a busload of his classmates from dying. Even if you want him to keep his powers a secret, saying that he should have maybe let all of the children die not only shows just how little Snyder and Goyer understand the characters they're adapting, and trust me, this isn't even the worst example, but pretty much marks John as a terrible father with questionable morals. And if your defense is that he only says maybe, or he's trying to say he doesn't know, then you really don't seem to understand basic human empathy. John decides to show Clark the ship he landed in and gives him the USB drive that apparently he took to professionals, and, well...
I took it to a metallurgist at Kansas State. He said whatever it was made from didn't even exist on the periodic table. That's another way of saying that it's not from this world, Clark.
They apparently never published their findings or even took a sample of it. Actually, if you wanted to keep this side of Clark a secret, then why are you having an obvious alien object that will draw attention to your family studied? Dumbass. It's also strange that John is saying this shit.
You're the answer to are we alone in the universe? It'd be a huge burden for anyone to bear, but you're not just anyone, Clark, and I have to believe that you were sent here for a reason. All these changes that you're going through, one day you're going to think of them as a blessing, and when that day comes, you're going to have to make a choice of whether to stand proud in front of the human race or not.
To his son, who is very distressed upon hearing that he's not human. Perhaps save it when he has come to accept it. Just a thought. However, this scene...
Can I just keep pretending I'm your son?
You are my son.
...is pretty good. Isolated from everything else and ignoring all context. Smash back to the present, and Clark is working as a busboy at a bar. He overhears future plot points from some soldiers before a fellow employee is sexually harassed by a patron. Clark asks him to leave, and this dude thinks he can handle a giant Henry Cavill by splashing and pouring him with beer. Now, there are a few ways to respond to this. Either gently escort him out of the bar, talk to the manager and have them deal with it, or comically crucify his truck, effectively ruining his livelihood like a complete psychopath. How did no one hear this, by the way? Clark goes outside during the day, and the asshole comes out at night. Did no one see him doing this either? How did he get away with this? But more importantly, why is the main character a crazy person? Yes, this guy was an asshole. However, the appropriate response doesn't involve preventing someone from putting food on their table and paying the bills unless that's the point of their character, which isn't the case here. And from an adaptation standpoint, well, I don't think I need to explain why fucking Superman wouldn't do something so psychotic.
My powers don't put me above the law.
Kingston, jaw and face!
We cut to the Arctic and Clark has a job with the military? or some contracting company, whatever. The important thing is that we're introduced to the wet drywall Snyder decided to call Lois Lane. She has arrived a day early to try and assert dominance. She's here to report on a massive object under ice, said ice being 20,000 years old. Keep that in mind, I'm not done with it yet. Lois is shown her quarters and it's hilarious. Maybe show up on time and you'd have a proper place to sleep. She then decides to go outside in below freezing temperature, at night, to take pictures. Because why the fuck not, I guess. And how convenient she came out at this exact moment because she manages to pick up Clark on her camera. That's a mighty fine zoom function you have there. It's the same quality zoom as normal. I'm not a camera expert, but I don't know if that's how that works. Something tells me it's not how that works. Fucking expert climber here. Real lucky you didn't slip and split your head open. Seriously though, look at how fucking steep those ledges on that ice are. We cut to Clark lasering holes in the ice until he finds a Kryptonian ship. He goes to place his USB drive into it, but a defense drone displays its hood like a cobra. Kind of adorable, not gonna lie. The Cobra bot attacks him, but backs off when Clark fully inserts the USB drive. He then sees the ghost of Kurt's past... Wait, huh? Really? Oh well, I've been calling Russell Crowe Kurt Russell this whole time. Anyways, Lois makes her way to the same place Clark was at, and the Cobra bot pimp slaps her. It's kind of funny too. I mean, look at the distance she gets. Outstanding. Clark then destroys the Cobra bot and lasers Lois's wound shut. Then he just leaves her ass out in the Arctic night to possibly freeze to death. Cut to the Daily Planet and Perry White is telling Lois he can't print her story, which makes sense. Actually, why did Lois think Perry would print her story about aliens? She should know that unless she had concrete physical proof, like a scrap of metal from the Cobra bot that she could have analyzed, that it wouldn't get published.
Congratulations, your idiot license is good for another year.
Ooh. Because such a story would come off as tabloid nonsense, especially when the Daily Planet is supposed to be a highly respected publication. However, Lois decides to leak it to what is effectively a nonsense conspiracy site, because that's a great way to murder your career. Back with Clark and the ghost of Kurt's past...
Cal, that's my name.
No, your name is Clark Joseph Kent. I know that in any other adaptation, this is him asking if that's his birth name, but Snyder really wants to focus on the alien aspect of Superman as opposed to the aspect people really love about him, his humanity. Because regardless of what other people might say, Clark Kent may be biologically Kryptonian, but everything else is 100% human.
After everything we've done, you still show us kindness.
My Earth parents taught me forgiveness. Humanity has a lot to teach us.
It's always been my belief that people, at their core, are good.
But I'll elaborate on that later. For now, we have some pretty god-awful world building.
Long ago, in an era of expansion, our race spread out through the stars. For 100,000 years, our civilization flourished. The outposts and space exploration were abandoned. Artificial population control was established. We exhausted our natural resources.
100,000 years of galactic prosperity, yet not a single planet became self-sufficient. The homeworld never established trade with other worlds. Not a single planet decided they wanted to become their own independent planet. Not a single one. And on top of it, instead of expanding more into the galaxy, they just gave up? Our own species managed to do roughly the same in about the same period of time with vastly inferior technology. And that's just Homo sapiens. Neanderthals, Denisovans, and hobbits, to name a few, did this long before even we did. This is not how you world build. Then you have this.
Why didn't you come with me?
Your mother, Lara, and I were a product of the failures of our world as much as Zod was, tied to its fate.
Well, that's pretty stupid.
That's retarded. You're retarded, Kurt. It's not the general population's fault they died due to petty bureaucracy. It's not your fault they didn't listen to you. Just say it was too late to go with you. That you didn't have time to go with Clark, or there was only enough time to build a ship that would fit Clark. Literally anything other than the vapid attempt at sounding profound.
Not if you give them hope.
Yeah, so much hope. Clark gets his suit, and despite the upcoming issues, Henry Cavill looks really good as Superman. Though I do think he looks better with the beard. Actually, how did he shave it? And I will say that the flying scene is pretty good too. It has some great music, and seeing this Superman have a genuine smile on his face is incredibly odd, since for the majority of his screen time in this franchise, he looks depressed or uninterested. Anyways, Lois manages to finally find Clark by doing some simple detective work, and it's revealed that Jonathan is dead. And oh boy, is there so much wrong with it.
The only way you could disappear for good is to stop helping people altogether, and I sense that's not an option for you.
It's very important for later. But on to Jonathan's retarded death. You see, instead of dying from a heart attack like most versions, he gets killed by a tornado. A tornado Clark could have saved him from. So many things wrong here. John, why didn't you send Clark to get the dog? You know, your son with super strength and incredible durability and super speed. And more importantly, why did you let your dad die, Clark? You don't need to use your full super speed. It's clear that even as a kid, you had a grasp of your powers. Literally, all you have to do is go and get him slightly faster than a normal person and save him. But instead, he listens to John and doesn't bother saving his father. And probably the dumbest thing is what Clark says about it.
I let my father die because I trusted him.
That is beyond stupid. You trusted your dad, so you let him die despite having the power to save him. What sense does that make? Oh, that's right. He'd expose himself or some such nonsense. And the movie treats this like a good thing. Letting someone needlessly die to not expose yourself when you're not ready is not a good thing. The reason why John dies of a heart attack in most iterations is because not only is it something Clark can't save him from, but is also an effective way to have an emotional moment, while also having Clark learn that despite all his power, he can't save everyone. That he is not God. Something Snyder doesn't understand. And yes, I will point out how this is a terrible adaptation along with the many objective flaws. Because, and this is important, while a movie should stand on its own regardless if it's an adaptation or not, it's still an adaptation of existing material and should be judged as such. Not saying bad adaptation means bad movie, obviously, just something to consider. Anyways, Clark comes home and what would be a heartfelt reunion between mother and son is derailed by, well, this.
I found them. My parents. My people.
Clark, you fucking moron. You haven't seen your mom in possibly years, and the first thing you say to her is,
my parents. My people.
It's not like he says he found his birth parents or where he comes from. He calls them his parents and his people in front of his mother. And this isn't me looking too much into it or looking for problems that don't exist. The movie really wants to emphasize Clark's alien side rather than what makes Superman, and by extension Clark Kent, who they are. The most human person you'll ever meet. Plus, it's immensely insensitive to say that in front of your mother, who hasn't seen you in years. We're then introduced to a plot hole, I mean General Man, as he's called in after a strange ship is detected. General Zod then sends a message for Clark to turn himself in, or he'll make the world suffer. Well, seems like an easy choice. Anyways, Lois is taken by the FBI, and Clark enters a church to ask if turning himself in is a good idea or not.
Zod can't be trusted. The problem is, I'm not sure the people of Earth can be either.
What do you mean? This is your home. The only home you've ever known. And you don't think the people of Earth can be trusted because you were bullied when you were a kid? Is that it? That's a horrendous justification. This also flies in the face of Clark, without hesitation, saving oil rig workers. Or this line from Lois earlier in the movie.
The only way you could disappear for good is to stop helping people altogether, and I sense that's not an option for you.
Even as a kid, he saved a bunch of people, one of which was being a dick to him. So why exactly is he hung up on saving the entire world? Is it because we wanted a church scene where we could do babies first symbolism? Is it because Snyder doesn't understand Superman? The answer is yes. Of course, Clark does turn himself over to the military in exchange for Lois's freedom. I actually like how Clark allows the military to cuff him. It's a neat little touch of Clark showing that he's more than willing to cooperate.
You could be carrying some kind of alien pathogen.
Been here for 33 years, Doctor. Haven't infected anyone yet.
Get it? Because Jesus was 33 when he died. It's so fucking clever and deep. Zod's side piece comes in to pick up Clark, but for some reason takes Lois along. Why, you ask? How is the plot going to progress if she doesn't? It's so contrived, it's almost hilarious. Clark meets Zod and begins reacting to the atmospherics of his ship. That does bring up a question of how Kryptonians work in Snyder's universe, but I'll get into that a little later. I also want to know how they learned English so fast. In the opening, I get they didn't want to have subtitles for audience convenience, and Kurt.ai could have had some translator thing, but Zod and his crew can speak and understand English. In fact, they translated their message in multiple languages. Do Kryptonians just have a natural ability to speak and understand any language they want? I don't know, it's really weird. Clark wakes up in a weird virtual reality thing Zod set up as he tells him what happened after he was sent to the Phantom Zone. Apparently a planet exploding can rip a hole in space-time, or something on Krypton was keeping them in the Phantom Zone, which if the latter is the case, then that sounds like a horrible design choice. I guess they aren't actually sent to another dimension because it looks like they're on a ship in the flashback. This is the least of the movie's problems, but it still bugs me. Also, Zach and Dave really hammer home how completely retarded the Kryptonians are when Zod recalls his trip to the other colonies. Seriously, not a single fucking colony became self-sufficient. It's like a toddler wrote this script. Anyways, after Zod tells Clark the rest, he says that he needs his help to rebuild Krypton. And you know this scene.
If Krypton lives again, what happens to Earth?
The foundation has to be built on something.
Ooh, edgy boil out. Sharps and sides. Be careful you don't cut yourself in all that fucking edge. Zod, why are you burying the guy who's your only hope of restoring Krypton and Skulls? You understand that by saying the only way for Krypton to live is for Earth to die is incredibly counterproductive. You've pretty much ensured more work for yourself instead of just lying to him. Or, you know, actually trying to come to some sort of agreement like settling on Mars maybe. You also know that by terraforming Earth you turn it into an uninhabitable wasteland. Clearly the food and water are fine for your people, as Clark is still alive. Seriously, Zod is easily one of the most retarded villains in the DCEU, and that is saying something. Naturally, Clark doesn't take this very well. No! This was made by a 14-year-old. Two ships head down to Earth as Kurt.ai helps Lois escape, because without her here, the movie would have been over by now. Why do people think this movie is good again? I mean, sure, it's a cool scene, but goddamn is the setup dumb. Also, this guy could have shot Lois in the back, but decided to just run at her like a dumbass. Lois manages to escape, however her pod was damaged, and Clark has one last chat with Kurt.ai.
We wanted you to learn what it meant to be human first, so that one day, when the time was right, you could be the bridge between two peoples.
No, you said you wanted him to forge his own destiny.
We have had a child, Zod. Boy child. And he will be free. Free to forge his own destiny.
What if Clark doesn't want to be the bridge between two worlds? What if he wants to start his own chain of pet supply stores? He clearly doesn't care as much as you think, given he needed to be convinced to turn himself in. You know, the act that would save Earth. Superman isn't Jesus. He's for all intents and purposes the most human person you'll ever meet. Just because he has incredible power and saves people doesn't make him some kind of messiah equivalent. I think it's a fundamental disconnect Zach and Dave have with Superman. In fact, a lot of people do. They think the only way for someone like Superman to help people out of selflessness is for him to be akin to Jesus. Because a normal person helping someone without wanting something in return or not abusing great power is alien to them, I guess. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. First time for everything. Clark saves Lois and oh my god, that face is hilarious. He looks like he's turtle heading so bad right now. Really, Zach? Couldn't ask for another take? Okay. Zod asks Martha where the Codex is before Lady Person holds her up by the throat. Martha then glances at the barn and Lady Person goes and just glances around the pod for a second. Doesn't even bother to see if there's maybe a hidden compartment. Zod then yeets the truck and autistically shrieks at Martha.
Where is the Codex?
It's also not too clear why Zod and his men have super strength. Zod did mention that he picked up some armor on his way to Earth. However, and this is important, never once is it established in any way, whether that be through exposition, visually, or audibly, that the armor grants super strength. A sufficient powering up sound would have been fine when the armor was put on. This is important because for the longest time I thought they were absorbing the sun through the transparent face mask and that was giving them super strength. But no, apparently it's the armor. Unless I'm wrong again and it's the sun, but fuck it I guess. Anyways, Clark comes in to save Martha, only to completely doom Smallville.
Kal-El, no!
Jesus, Clark, did you have to bring him to a populated area? Zod's weird mask stops working and he's exposed to Earth's atmosphere. Clark then seemingly revels in Zod's pain as his body struggles with adapting.
My parents taught me to hone my senses, Zod. Focus on just what I wanted to see. Without your helmet, you're getting everything. And it hurts, doesn't it?
Clark even gives a little smirk. But this version totally isn't an unhinged sociopath. No, he's the good guy. Some of Zod's men pick him up while two of them stay to fight Clark. Now, I'm sure that Clark will try and take them away from the city. Ha! No, he just slowly walks towards them until the military begins unloading minigun rounds. And so begins the destruction. The loud, mindless, boring destruction, where Clark, rather than try and take the rampaging psychopaths away from the populated areas, decides to partake in the destruction. Then again, this Clark is a petty sociopath, so I guess it's consistent. The crowning achievement of complete cringe is when he fights Lady Person.
The fact that you possess a sense of morality and we do not gives us an evolutionary advantage. And if history has proven anything, it is that evolution always wins.
You know, a normal person wouldn't let their autism take over. However, I'm a complete autist and I'm not normal. First off, morality is a product of evolution and is one reason why humans were so successful to the point of dominating the entire ecosystem. Second, evolution always wins. In what context? What is it competing against? However, most importantly, it makes no fucking sense from a character perspective. Zod very clearly has a sense of morality, to protect Krypton at all cost, and the fact that you follow him without question and even mourn the loss of Krypton shows that you do as well. Was there any proofreading when writing this? You know, you'd think with all the money they pumped into this, they'd make better models for fights, or use better camera work so they don't look so fucking rubbery. Anyways, one scene from this awful sequence that is actually kinda nice is when the soldier from earlier decides to knife fight Lady Person. It gives a tiny drop of basic but effective characterization, something this film just doesn't have.
A good death has its own reward.
That line actually has a nice payoff. Also, keep this scene of Clark's heat vision hitting the Kryptonian armor in mind. You can bet your ass I'm not done with it yet. The fight ends when Lady Person's face thing deactivates and the nameless goon takes her away. Clark then goes to check on his mom and we get this stupid line.
It's only stuff, Clark. It can always be replaced.
I mean, your fucking house has a truck in it. The same house that you and Jonathan lived in for years. It's not just stuff. It's what the stuff means that's important. Plus, where the fuck are you going to live? Ah, fuck it, who cares? Lois shows up and just says Clark's name in front of the police officer like a ham sandwich. Back with Zod, as it's revealed that Kurt Russell put the Codex inside Clark's body.
The DNA of 1 billion people. Then he bonded it within his son's individual cells.
Oh boy, am I certainly not done with that yet. Zod then releases the world engine to ensure Krypton remains dead. Apparently not even the scientist guy understands radically changing Earth's atmosphere will kill the majority of life. In fact, how is there going to be any consistency with the atmosphere with nothing to keep it sustained like we have with plants? Is the world engine going to keep running until you get the Kryptonian equivalent? Earth is fine as it is, if not better, because you become super beings. You'd think that would appeal immensely to someone who was designed to be a soldier. And so begins our climax. The loud, retarded climax. Clark, instead of getting rid of the one in a major metropolitan area, saving lives and whatnot, decides to go to the middle of nowhere with little if any people in danger, all the while leaving the one in Metropolis to the military. And what is their brilliant plan?
We can make the two drives collide with one another.
A singularity can be created.
Like a black hole. Yes.
That's stupid! You're stupid! Stop being stupid!
To open a goddamn black hole. Do I even need to explain why that's a bad idea? By the way, if the atmosphere is what gives Superman his powers, or is the main reason with the sun being a small part of it, how can he fly in space or high orbit where there's less oxygen? Fuck it, who cares? World building is gay. Why is Lois here? Why are you bringing a civilian with no skills that could contribute? While we're on the subject of things that make no sense, here's Zod managing to do in seconds what Clark took fucking years to do. And no, him being a soldier that learned to hone his senses doesn't make sense. He's being bombarded with so many sounds and vision modes at once, something he's never had to deal with. It'd be sensory overload. Plus, it demonstrates that with Zod's help, any Kryptonian born in Earth's atmosphere would be able to get used to their powers quickly. What I'm trying to say is that this is retarded. Zod takes control of the ship with the Genesis Chamber, while Clark deals with the World Engine. And its defenses aren't guns, but weird snake things. I don't get it either. Also, for some reason, the people of the Daily Planet are still in the building. Apparently they didn't hear the Earth getting hate-fucked. So yeah, about that, there is this scene right here where, Perry is watching the thing fuck the Earth, and I guess I forgot to put it in the script. I do apologize, but yes, he is seeing the planet getting absolutely raped, and is just still in there, and only decides to evacuate after a little while afterwards. I don't know.
You are just comprised to fail, aren't you?
Look at all this destruction and loss of life. If only someone could have stopped it. Someone with incredible strength and speed. We cut back with Kurt.ai and Zod, and Zod says this.
So we can suffer through years of pain trying to adapt like your son has?
Zod, you literally just adapted in a matter of seconds. Plus, if Kryptonians were bred for specific purposes, that implies that you can manipulate their DNA. Meaning that you could alter it so they wouldn't have to suffer for years. Or, if you can't do that, then have the new Kryptonians repopulate the fun way so that after a few generations that won't be an issue. Evolution always wins, right? It's better than trying to make a barren wasteland habitable. Basically what I'm trying to say is that this line is retarded and whoever wrote it should be ashamed of writing it. Zod deletes Kurt.ai and takes out the scout ship while Clark fights the CGI snake. All the while, more people fucking die. Maybe I should call Clark Cal because of how alien this is from Superman. Cal then destroys the World Engine while Lois fails to activate the black hole bomb. Because this Lois is useless. Zod arrives and is about to destroy the black hole bomb when Cal comes in and saves it. Oh shit. It's this scene.
If you destroy this ship, you destroy Krypton! Krypton had its chance!
Kal-El, no!
I'm not anyone's judge and jury, Professor Baxter. Definitely not an executioner. My powers don't put me above the law.
Krypton had its chance!
People have to know that there's another way.
Okay, where to start? Actually, do I even need to explain why committing genocide is bad? The DNA of 1 billion people is in Cal's bloodstream. He holds the fate of a race in his hands. A race his space dad says he could bridge with humans. Something he never really objected to. Only to now say that they had their chance? From an adaptation standpoint, this is a complete assassination of Superman's character, since this isn't an origin of an evil Superman. As its own story, it shows just how much of a complete psychopath Cal is. an entire race screwed over by petty bureaucracy and incompetent leadership, something Cal should have put together from the history lesson he was given, had a chance to live again. And this asshole made sure they remained extinct without a second thought. Why? Fuck if I know. If it's because Zod and his crew are evil, that doesn't make sense given Kurt.ai was relatively pleasant, and the history lesson he gave should have made it clear that not all Kryptonians are psychopaths. It's astounding this was given the green light. Complete fucking garbage. And because Cal is a terrible person, he causes the scout ship to crash into several more buildings, causing more damage and possibly killing more people. The scientist man manages to figure out how to get the black hole bomb working by just turning it slightly. Couldn't figure that one out earlier, eh, Lois? Letty Person bursts into the plane as Science Dude activates the Phantom Drive, and we get the only satisfying payoff in the entire movie.
A good death is its own reward.
The black hole bomb goes off, and Lois apparently falls faster than light because she's not being sucked in, despite all of these heavier objects being sucked in, but physics is gay. Cal saves her, and they kiss, because she's Lois and he's Superman. Not because it's been properly built up, they've known each other for a week at most, neither of them have any personality to speak of, aside from Cal being an unhinged psychopath, but I'll get to just how awful this movie handles its characters later.
He saved us.
Honey, no. He's the reason why the main ship wasn't destroyed sooner. He committed a genocide which then resulted in more innocent lives being lost. And before you all spurk out, I know she specifically doesn't know most if not all of that. But the authorial intent behind the statement is that he's a hero, which he isn't. Anyways, time for another action scene. It's just action figures being slammed together, which can be fun sometimes, but after 2 hours of misery, I just want my pain to end. However, we can't forget how this supposed Superman is doing literally nothing to try and minimize the damage. Christ, Zod is bloodlusted. Literally just lead him out of Metropolis. At least fucking try. One of the worst examples is when Cal dodges a fucking tanker and lets it crash into a parking garage, and he just looks at it like a lemming. Then again, why are all these people still fucking here? Why have they not tried to evacuate? My head. Pain.
Where did you train? On a farm?
Oh man, it never stops being funny. Poor Michael Shannon. His entire direction is to either talk with peanut butter in his mouth or autistically read. And now he can fly without any practice. Because shut up. I like how they both end up in the same place despite being sent up into orbit when they come back down.
If you love these people so much, you can mourn for them.
Why haven't these people evacuated? Buildings are not going to make you any safer. Surely you all would have known that by now. But we wouldn't have a retarded trolley problem. However, that would be a good thing, because these people are fucking stupid. You not only have a good chance to run away while Zod is talking, but even when he fires his heat vision, there's plenty of room to escape. Not like Cal is any better. Remember when I said keep this scene in mind? Well, the armor and Cal are pretty relative to each other. So Cal could just cover up Zod's eyes with his hand. Hell, just tilt to the side, or lean back, or fly up, or push his head away from the family. Instead, Cal snaps Zod's neck, which if he's strong enough to do that, he should be strong enough to choke him out in a sleeper hold. Now, while I don't personally like Superman killing, you can make it work. However, along with the multitude of ways he could have stopped Zod aside from killing him, this Superman shouldn't have an issue with killing. He literally genocided his entire race without much thought, and what little characterization he's had has shown him to be a detached, petty sociopath, and he has no problem with causing collateral damage. Basically, he's a terrible person. But no. He's sad that he killed someone now. Problem is that, well, again, committed literal genocide. Having an issue with killing someone doesn't really make sense. If anything, he should have killed Zod sooner. Ah, fuck it, we're almost done. Fast forward and Cal destroys a drone and confronts the military. General Guy says this.
How do we know you won't one day act against America's interests?
I want you to keep this locked in your memory. It'll be relevant, but not in this movie. Cal then gives away his potential identity.
I grew up in Kansas, General. About as American as it gets.
Way to go, idiot. Now if they wanted to, they could possibly find out who you are. Anyways, Cal gets a job at the Daily Planet and we end. Where do I even begin with this pool of concentrated stupidity? Well, the entire plot hinges on Kryptonians being the most retarded species in the galaxy. Their response to running out of resources on the home planet is to recall all the colonies and stop space exploration. Exploration that would establish new planets and thus new resources. It's bad enough Krypton had weeks to evacuate.
We may only have a matter of weeks.
It's even worse when the entire thing could have been avoided by simply trading with other colonies, or just leaving Krypton for other worlds. Apparently they couldn't establish self-sufficient planets in 100,000 years. Meanwhile, multiple species of humans have done so with far less advanced technology and a primitive understanding of how the world works. While the plot and world building may be a complete failure, what the film fucks up the most is in its characters. And no, it's not just because they're not faithful to the source material. Though, I will certainly get into that. They're either stupid or personality-devoid robots whose purpose is to drive the shitty plot forward. Zod is easily one of the dumbest villains I've seen in a while. His whole plan is to literally make Earth unusable as a new Krypton, and his method of trying to convince Cal is to bury him in a sea of skulls. Lois only exists to push the shitty plot forward or to be saved. Her personality can be best described as soggy cardboard on a humid day. There's absolutely no chemistry between her and Cal. They only kiss because, as stated earlier, she's Lois and he's Superman. Speaking of the big blue sociopath, this iteration of Superman is not only terrible as an adaptation, but even as its own thing. His characterization is almost non-existent through the majority of the film, and when he is, he's an awful person, which is contradictory to the earlier scenes of him saving the rig workers and his classmates. If anything, this is what people usually think of Superman as. A plot robot who either has no personality and character, or is whatever the writers need him to be. In one scene, he's saving people to the detriment of himself. Another, he's unsure if saving the entire planet is a good idea because he was bullied in high school. The exact opposite of actual Superman, who is witty, clever, charismatic, wholesome, and the most human person you'll ever meet. Someone who believes that humanity, despite all their faults, has the capacity for immense good, and he tries to inspire them to be the best they can be. This Superman not only doesn't do that, but is almost the exact opposite. Boring, idiotic, petty, and all around terrible. Actual Superman doesn't just put on a pair of glasses and hide his identity. He changes the tone of his voice, how he carries himself, and even his posture. You want to know which one has Superman just slap on a pair of glasses and calls it good? Yup. Superman is my favorite DC hero of all time, and it really annoys me that not only do people just get basic facts about him wrong, but Drek like this is considered to be the best Superman movie, when in reality it's the worst. Both as a representation of the character and as its own thing, which is a shame because Henry Cavill not only looks the part, but has shown that he can be a good Superman.
I believe in truth, but I'm also a big fan of justice.
You're goddamn right I'm saying he's better in Justice League. Fucking fight me. Okay, we're done. Finally done with this horrendous pile of Garchomp shit. A few things to get out of the way. Yes, I will be tackling the other Snyder films in this franchise, but don't expect them anytime soon. Especially that 4-hour nightmare that is the Snyder Cut. Second, subscribe to Yarp. They're incredibly fun guys, and they've been on my podcast several times, and I've been on theirs. And finally, please, for the love of Arceus, don't give Snyder or Goyer anything Superman related again.